Hello, everyone, and welcome to Blind Spots. I'm your host, Gail McDonald, and we are here today with a very special guest that is going to share some incredible information about leadership. And I have learned a lot about leadership, and I've seen a lot of different approaches about leadership. But to me, Ed's approach is quite different, and it's something that really sits with my heart. So Ed Brenegar is here with us today, and Ed is a leadership thought leader, writer, podcaster, and social catalyst. He writes The Future of Leadership on Substack and hosts the Eddie Network podcast on YouTube. Ed is the author of 8 books. His next book is tentatively titled Generational Memory: Restoring Community in the Continuity of Time. So Ed, I can't thank you enough for being here today. I know you're a very, very busy person. And you also shared some things with me before we started recording this episode that really impressed me with how you manage your time, because that's another part of leadership. And I can't wait for the audience to hear not just about leadership, Ed, and how you approach it, but some of the things that are very near and dear to your heart and how you see that being a benefit in leadership as well. So thank you so much for your time today, Ed.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Gail.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I enjoyed having you on my podcast and uh, forward to that being released soon.
Yeah, I do appreciate it as well, Ed. And it's almost like a podcast community. It's almost like, well, you do mine and I'll do yours. But the beauty of that is everyone typically has a different audience. And so I think of the compounded effect and the consequences of how many more people can actually view this information, which can be very helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I believe you asked me this question, so I'm going to copy that for a minute because it is always interesting. How did you become involved in the work that you do?
It's a great question. It's a great story. I I'm what some people would call a neurodiverse person.
Hmm.
And that and I'm not going to say anything more in terms of labels about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I approach life is I see a big picture and I can walk into situations and see what's going on, see those patterns. And this was not just something that happened late in life. This is happening when I was a kid,
Hmm.
and so I had to find something. When I went to college, I had to find something that was broad enough to keep my interest and my attention, but also something that I could achieve because I wasn't really gifted to be a college student. I didn't read. I didn't read like college students. I didn't take tests like college students. I mean, I just was really a fish out of water in that sense. And I figured out how to make it. I mean, I was almost flunking, excuse me, after my second year in
Mm-hmm.
college because I just wasn't performing and I was hanging out with people too much, with who I love. I graduated, and what I ended up doing was I went into ministry because there's probably no job which has the breadth of exposure to ideas and to people than the work of a minister.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked well. My first call was to a church in Atlanta where I was doing community ministry, and I got invited to be the clergy representative on a business association board. And then this is in downtown Atlanta. And this was a large organization, 45 members of the board. And I'd never experienced a board where there was such collaboration and unity, and the spectrum of people in that board was extraordinarily broad. And I said, I've never seen anything like this. oh, so this is what leadership is. I said, oh, it's this collaboration of people all contributing as leaders together. Oh, so that's what leadership is. I took some leadership seminars, began to read on leadership, and I realized that I disagreed with almost everything I was reading and hearing because I saw that leadership was a way that we function in our life rather than it being a role or a title in an organization. So if you're operating an organization and you're the head of the organization, you're the CEO or you're the general manager or you're the owner, your real job is to facilitate the leadership of your people. And for me then the definition of that leadership is that all leadership begins with personal initiative to create impact that makes a difference that matters. And if you can equip your people to take initiative, which is forbidden in many companies, if you can persuade your people and equip them to take initiative to solve problems and to communicate better and to innovate new ways of doing things, then you're going to find that your company is expanding in its reach and expanding in its the quality of work that comes from your people.
Hmm.
So that's how I got into this and
Yeah,
where it
and
took
I'm
me.
I'm sure there's much, much more, Ed, as you move forward. But um, when I was reading a book by Rutger Bregman called Moral Ambition, and I'm pretty certain it was in that book, um, but not 100%, but I think it was. He was speaking about the Gore-Tex company, and I can't
Hmm.
remember which state it started in, but Gore-Tex, their style of leadership is that they don't really have any formal leaders. Everyone just seems to work together very collaboratively and are allowed to come up with ideas and allow people to work to their strengths and things like that. And I think one of the biggest questions I would have for you is what do you see as some of the challenges with some of the companies that you've worked with or maybe know a little bit more about than the average person? What would be some of the things that get in the way of not having that particular model? Because we're still many companies are still in a very hierarchical model, like top down, do as I say, not as I do. You know, this one person manages these four manage 20, and so on and so forth.
When I became a consultant in 1995, and the first thing that I saw, and then I could trace it back in time, was I saw three patterns of behavior.
Mm,
And one of the patterns was the lack of ability to think clearly. And when I speak of thinking clearly, I'm talking about values, having a clear set of values that actually define the company and not boilerplate marketing words. Having a clear sense of purpose, having a clear mission for how that purpose gets expressed, having a vision for what I call impact. And many of the organizations I worked with couldn't really identify what their impact was. And the impact is simply, for me, a change that makes a difference that matters. You're impacting your customers, you're impacting your community, you're impacting the people that you work with in the office. I mean, the impact is a way of saying the initiation I've taken is having this beneficial effect, and the effect can be seen in this change that's taken place. And so there was this lack of clarity about what all that meant. And one of the ways I've talked about this is that as a result, the people who run the organization know how to run an organization, but they don't know how to lead an organization. Because
so,
with clarity of thought,
Mhm.
with a clarity of purpose, clarity of your values, then you can build relationships, which is the second problematic pattern of behavior. Build relationships of respect and trust. And trust is a product of respect between people. And once you build trust, then you can become mutually accountable to one another and mutually supportive to one another. And in the companies where I've seen this sort of development take place, it's a remarkable thing to see. And it tells me that it's possible for any organization to change if they're willing to address the third problematic pattern of behavior. And that was how the structure of the company inhibits clarity of thought, inhibits respectful relationships, because the structure of the company defines who these people are. And their mission is not to achieve something. Their mission is to fulfill the role that the structure identifies as their role. And as a result, there's no real sense of how do we need to change to become a better company. There may be, oh, we need to improve on certain metrics, these sort of things. But if your company realized that the way you were organized was actually causing your demise, would they even be willing to change in order to survive? And I'm not convinced that there's a majority of organizations out there that would choose to survive by changing the way they are organized. So those three things of ideas, relationships, and structure are kind of the places that a focus for the say the executive leadership of a company to focus on and say, how can we elevate the value system here? How can we strengthen the relationships between everybody in the company? And how can we identify places to change the structure of the company so we can do better?
How can we? Mhm. I love the inclusivity of that question.
Mhm.
And you have information on your website about the way that's done. So I'm wondering if you
Also have
could,
a book. This book
that is exactly where I
that
was
book
going.
this book describes that. It's called
Perfect.
Circle of Impact.
Yes, perfect. And I do think it's on Audible.
It is?
Yeah, so I'll be downloading that. I just haven't had the time to go through. Well, as I told you earlier, I downloaded the new book by Gabor Mate and his son, and it's an 18-hour listen. So I'm gonna be busy for a while unless I switch it up. But you do speak about center and periphery,
Hmm.
and you've got a diagram on your website.
Hmm.
And is it in your book as well, this diagram? The center
No.
and no? Okay. Well, do go to Ed's website and take a look at this diagram because it really explains the the
May I ask you what you see there?
well, multiple
Why does that
things.
why is
Yeah,
that interesting to you?
that's a great point. So yeah, so center and periphery versus centers and peripheries. And this is just how my mind works. So I just got instant feedback from my brain on what I was seeing. It was collaboration, and it looked like a very like I love that you just drew it, but it looked like a very wiggly version of a Venn diagram, like
Hmm.
everyone overlapping. And what comes to mind is when people don't speak up in meetings, what are we missing? You know, when they're not allowed to speak up, or if they do speak up, they're reprimanded for it, or whatever reasons. But
Hmm.
it just made me think about, wow, if more leaders or more companies could grasp this concept and know that everyone has something of value to say. And I don't care if it's the janitor,
Right.
because nobody knows what the janitor is doing as they're doing their work, tidying up, cleaning, what they see, what they hear. And they might have something very valuable, and that janitor may have been a leader
Absolutely.
pre-retirement. Now the janitor's just doing this for fun. So it's just like, how do we open people's minds to support them in shifting their perspective that this is more effective? As a leader, you don't have to take the whole load on your back, which has a whole host of other problems, such as stress and burnout and all of the above. It's how do you willingly, respectfully delegate and trust that your team is going to do it?
Let me speak to that because I think most leaders, most senior leaders of organizations
Hmm.
believe that they are essential to the success of the company.
Hmm.
And the reality is the people in the lowest echelons of the company, from the middle managers down, they're the ones who are essential. And
Hmm.
what I discovered was that, and here's this phrase I use, there is a persistent residual culture of values that persists because it resides in the relationships of the people. And if go into an organization and you go ask, say, the people who work as executive assistants, you go talk to them, they're going to know more about what's going on in the company than their bosses do.
Hmm.
Because their
Hmm.
bosses have a narrow view, they have a big view because they're talking to one another and because they support one another. They need one another in order to function well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's already there.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, Gail, it's already operating in most organizations. There's something of a community already there
Yeah.
that, but because we're so top down oriented, we can't see that. And but if we were to step outside and walk in from the bottom and walk upward, we would see that those relationships of support and caring and respect and trust and mutual interest in all those things. It's already happening in most organizations.
Hmm. Can you say a little bit more about that as how it is happening in other organizations? Ed, you know,
It
what's the
happens
it?
because
Hmm.
it happens because people want to work in a place where they want to work. They find enjoyment in working,
Hmm.
and they want to work with people who they enjoy interacting with.
Hmm.
And and you can find obviously you can find places where that's not happening.
Hmm.
And and what happens is your best people, the most talented people, the best equipped will leave and go somewhere else because they're going to look for a place where they're free to do their best work. They're free to care for other people. They're free to collaborate. They're free to
Hmm.
talk. So that's what I see. I had an instance where I was working with a large global corporation,
Hmm.
and I was working with one division of that
Hmm.
company. And I go to their headquarters, and the guy that I know who brought me in to help do some work there was taking me around the building, and he was introducing me to people and showing me where all their offices and cubicles were. And then he took me into the executive suite, and everybody was gone. This was on a Friday afternoon. Everybody was gone except for one woman who was sitting there, and she stood up and was very rigid and formal towards me, and she was very attractive and very formally dressed. Her business attire was very formal,
Hmm.
so that when I greeted her, I felt almost like I was offending her.
Hmm.
And this company had had some trouble, and people knew that. And so I asked her, I says, "Well, how long have you worked here?" She says, "I'm 48 and I started when I was 20." And I said, "You must love this place if you stay for 28 years."
Hmm.
And then I said to her, You know what I have found is that it's people like you who outlast the people up at the executive suite. And because of people like you, the company is able to survive and do well and overcome all the challenges it face. And it's because there's a persistent residual culture of values that persist because it resides in the relationships with the people.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, all that tension in her body left her and she floated into her seat.
Mm.
And it was like, oh, finally someone recognizes that what we all know, which is we love this company. And it pains us for the difficulty it's going through, but we're going to be here till we retire
Wow,
because we love it.
that's loyalty.
That's loyalty.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so the company's purpose is greater than the executive's leadership to them.
Hmm.
And and I think that's an important thing, important aspect of this. So no company is greater than no leader is greater than its company or its organization.
Hmm. Well, we would hope not, because that's just like one person or a few people, the leaders.
I know.
And if they're greater than the organization, well, then everybody's in big trouble because when they
But
leave, then what, right?
but we see this all the time,
Yeah, we
you
do.
know,
Hmm.
and for whatever reason, and we don't have to go into why does it happen. It
Hmm.
just does happen.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and therefore, those of us like you and me, we want to support the people who are in the lower echelons of the company to say, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. It
Hmm.
matters. You're doing good work. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for what you're doing. Give them thanks, express gratitude, that sort of
Hmm.
thing.
Basic, basic
Basic.
rules of life of being kind. And I almost said being nice, but to me, nice and kind aren't the same things.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, very different.
I agree.
Yeah. So if you agree, I'd love to hear your take on that. But I've also made a quick note because I would really appreciate hearing your perspective on it. Earlier, you said something about running a company versus leading a company. So I'll let you pick, Ed. Are we going to talk about nice versus kind or running versus leading?
Well, let me just say that, let me be quick in describing what I see as the difference between running and leading.
Okay.
Running an organization, you're interested in the mechanics of the organization
Hmm.
and you're measuring things by their numbers. Leading an organization is you're looking at what is the value system of the company and whether
Hmm.
it can be identified by your customers in the
Hmm.
way they are treated. I mean,
Hmm.
I'll give you an example. I I purchased I moved into a new house last year and I purchased a washer and dryer. And I purchased it online, and the company was to deliver it to my house. And I never got it. Never got a notice that they were coming, and so I called them up. I called the store here, and I said, "When can you tell me when they're going to deliver it?" She says, "I don't have any record of your purchase." I said, "Well, I purchased it, and the credit card went through." And she said, "Well, my advice to you is you come and repurchase it, and we'll refund you the money." And they did refund me the money, and but then when they delivered it, they missed an essential piece of the thing,
Hmm.
and so I called them up and said, "You forgot this." And what I what I went through was about 6 weeks of daily conversations with the store, telling them they had not fulfilled their obligation to me in installing my new washer and dryer.
Hmm.
And as of today, 18 months later, they still have not. So that's a company that's running their business and not leading their business.
Okay. That is a great, great example.
And their people
Hmm.
know that.
Mm.
because I go to the store and I talk to the people in the appliance section and I say, this is what's going on. And they said, yeah, we know.
Oh, that's heartbreaking for
Yeah, well,
them.
there's nothing hidden. There's nothing hidden in organizations today. Everybody knows what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff that is hidden is usually pretty bad. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't want to know it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see the relationship between leading and running an organization.
Mm-hmm.
So if the company was leading,
Mm-hmm.
if the managers at that store were leading or the executives who were running the whole corporation
Mm-hmm.
were leading, they would have given the woman at the cash register in the appliance department the the authority
Yeah.
to solve my problem,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she did not have that authority
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
they were more interested in the cost of or the money that they would make off of me than
Mm-hmm.
whether I became a satisfied customer. And I called the manager of the store and I said, "You've lost a customer. Do you realize?" And I'm going to talk about this with people. And what I found out was I'm not the only one who has had this experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are running a business today, you have an opportunity to beat your competitors by simply leading, by enabling your people to lead and
Right.
giving them the prerogative to solve problems of your customers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a big market out there if you know how to be kind. Right? Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's the problem starts at the top and it goes
Yeah.
down. And
Yeah.
so that's that. What was the second question you had?
Oh,
What
the
was that?
nice versus kind.
Oh,
Hmm.
let me rephrase this as let's talk about gratitude.
Absolutely. I love talking about gratitude.
Um, I I had something come to me probably 16 or 18 years ago,
Mhm.
and I realized that, well, I won't go into all the background. Let me just say that I came up with this little scheme for people to stop feeling grateful and start acting grateful.
Mm. Hmm.
And so I came up with what I call the 5 actions of gratitude.
Oh, I
And
can't wait.
and what I'm suggesting
Yeah.
that if you're a wise leader of
Hmm.
people, that you make it possible for your people to record moments of expression of gratitude, actions of gratitude,
Hmm.
and that you quantify this
Hmm.
every month. And so the 5 actions are say thanks.
Hmm.
The second one is oh, I'm blanking. I haven't thought about this well. The the third one is make welcome.
Mm.
The fourth one is I've got to look this up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I gotta look this up
Yeah.
so that I can give it to you correctly.
Sure. It's
Uh,
all good, Ed. Please feel free. Um,
so let me kind
hmm.
of say what I want to say about this,
Okay.
because I think that um, so much of what we face in the world today are um, ways of making ourselves feel better about what we do.
Hmm. And
And
when, sorry.
and and that we are not getting enough affirmation
Mm-hmm.
and we're not getting enough appreciation,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore we look at things that give us good feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that's a that's a challenge, I think, for most organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And
I wonder why it's a challenge because it's so simple and it costs absolutely nothing. Um,
yes,
while you're looking that up, Ed, I'd like to share a short story that happened just a couple of weeks ago, if I may.
sure. Oh yeah,
And
sure show. It's your show.
yeah,
You
but
can do
you're my
whatever you want
guest.
to.
You are my guest, and I am grateful you are here. But it kind of goes hand in hand with what you were saying about people feeling good about receiving affirmations or appreciation. And there's this fellow that I've gotten to know a little bit on my dog walks, and he's waiting for the bus to go to work, and he just works at a small pub in our neighborhood. So the dog is always the catalyst to a conversation, and we're chatting, and so he was sharing that with me, and I have eaten there the odd time, and the food is really good. I said, so you're the one responsible for the great food, and you could just see his energy shift.
Yeah.
And the other day, I was on the other side of the street, but I did see him, so we waved and acknowledged each other, and I yelled across the street, "Hey, chef, have a good day." And when he heard the word chef, he just lit up.
Wow.
He he told me he was a cook. And it depends on your
Oh,
perspective, but there's a difference between
oh
a
yeah.
cook and a chef, right? We think, when I think of chef, I think of Ramsay, right? And so it just it like I could feel my heart getting bigger inside my chest because I knew just by that simple word, it made him feel so good just by his actions and his response. And what is he going to do when he gets to work feeling that way? And how is that going to affect other people? So that's it.
It'll get translated. It'll, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he might not, it might be simply he won't respond negatively to something that's going
Yeah.
wrong. He'll
Yeah.
just say, okay, we'll deal with this.
Yeah. Yeah. The tiniest things can make the biggest difference. And we have to continue on with that, understanding that we may never know the difference that we make.
So I want to frame these five actions of gratitude
Mm-hmm.
as as a, project that a company can take on and they can measure
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yay.
And and the first measure is, well, did you do something? And we answer yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second question is, what changed because of it? And that might be evident and it might not be.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if we do, say, over the course of a month,
Mm-hmm.
three things in each one of these five areas,
Mm-hmm.
we will see
Mm-hmm.
things change. We will
Mm-hmm.
see ourselves change. So,
Mm-hmm.
so here are the five actions of gratitude.
Let's hear it.
The first is say thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Say thanks every day
Mm-hmm.
and go out of your way to say thanks to people because they don't expect it.
Yeah.
They, and so the second one is give back.
Mm.
And I see that regularly as well, is
Mm-hmm.
the need for people to recognize that things have come to them that they should be grateful for, but just not feel grateful, but to be grateful by saying, I'm going to give back. Like I used to, when I was doing community ministry, people would come up to me, and if that person was obviously poor, destitute, and it was not obviously obvious to me that they were not addicted, that they were not drunk or on some kind of drugs, but they were just people who were down on their luck.
Mhm.
I would give them some money, and then I would say to them, "Your responsibility is to find more money to give away.
Mhm.
I want you to give to someone else like I'm giving to you, because if you do that, then that person might do that, and we'll have a giving culture that can take care of our street here."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they always loved that because it gave them a sense of dignity that by giving back, I'm saying I am someone of value, and I want to say thank you to you. And so that sort of thing. That makes sense?
Oh, 110%. Absolutely. And I just think of that movie, Pay It Forward, and
Yeah,
how by that, Susan and I used to talk about this on our TV talk show. You drop a pebble in a stream, and the pebble goes along and it goes into a lake, which goes into a river, which goes into the ocean, and it just expands and expands, and it
that's
just
right.
keeps going around. It's like that full circle. Um, where have we heard something similar to that before? The name of your
Yeah,
book. Wow, wow, we've arrived. Circle of Impact.
here we are. That's right. So
Yeah.
the third
Hmm.
action of gratitude
Hmm.
is make welcome.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what I really mean by that is if you're working in an organization,
Hmm.
remove the barriers to leadership so that anyone who comes and joins the company or joins the organization can automatically, from the very first day, do things that make a difference that matters.
Hmm.
That's when you make them welcome, you're inviting them in to be a collaborative partner with the other leaders of the organization.
Hmm.
And it's a way of saying thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Let's go work together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting. I mean, it's because if you talk to people, and I'm sure you've coached a lot of people who felt like there were all these barriers to them doing well in the organization.
Hmm.
And a lot of what I see, a lot of the coaching that goes on is how to overcome those barriers. Those are barriers of structure as much as it is of leadership. And so if we open it up and say, we welcome you into our business, we welcome you into service here, and we would love for you to take initiative to make a difference that matters from the get-go.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, Toyota and or Honda, I did read years ago that that's the culture they have.
Hmm.
The CEOs, the executives, they all eat in the same cafeteria with
Yeah,
the assembly line workers. And
yeah.
there's also a very large company. Their head office is overseas, and they transport really large equipment that moves huge vessels for pipelines, etc. And I met with them, I can't remember when, but they shared with me that the president of the company, when he comes to visit that plant, um, he knows everyone's name. And
Hmm.
there at this time there were 100 people working in that plant. And the turnover, I was told, was incredibly low and people really got along. So it was coming from top down, but that it's just so simple, calling someone by their name, especially as a leader.
I did a project with an electrical utility once,
Hmm.
and they had had some difficulties with their executive team, and they left. And a new CEO came in,
Hmm.
and he didn't tell them anything about what he was planning to do for at least 3 months, 4 months. Then then he hired me to come in and write a value statement. And what I found out was that he would go out at 5:30 in the morning to where the line operations were, where these men who drive the trucks and they got their buckets and they're going up and working on the lines and stuff. And he would go out there and take them breakfast, and they wouldn't talk about the business. They would talk about their families,
Mm.
and they got to know him as Paul, and he got to know them as whatever their first names were. He also got to know who their families were, things that they enjoyed, and he'd show up in a t-shirt and jeans, and they go off to work, and he'd go home, put his suit on, go to the office, and as a result, all that negative anticipation of the new leader coming in was taken care of, and the value statement that we wrote was applied to was it was it was taken in a training program for the middle managers was given for the middle managers to train the lowest echelon of the company in the leadership skills to implement the value statement.
Mm. Mhm.
And within 2 years, the company was recognized as one of the 100 most trustworthy companies in the U.S.
Wow.
And in 2 years before that, they were not. There
Hmm.
was a lot of mistrust. And so it told me that by making people welcome, making people, opening up the opportunity for people to lead,
Hmm.
you really are saying, we care about you and we thank you for the contributions you're making to the company.
Hmm. Hmm. You can't beat it. That's really all
Okay.
it takes. So we are at number four.
Number
That-
four is
yeah.
honor others.
Mm. Hmm.
And honor is not the gold watch when you retire. Honor is
Hmm.
what you do on a daily basis. We're
Hmm.
going to celebrate someone who's done something great today. We're going to honor them by just recognizing their service and
Hmm.
recognizing their contribution.
Hmm.
And then the fifth action of gratitude is to create goodness.
Mm. Okay.
And whatever that means to the person, they're trying to create a level of something within their work
Hmm.
that other people will say, that's really good stuff. That's really a great contribution. We want that. And so they're focused on doing good work. So, and we thank them for that.
Mm.
But it's also the creation of goodness is a way of saying thank you for the opportunity you have given me to make a difference that matters.
Hmm. Hmm. And it's really a two-way street. When you're in a company that has that culture, um, you also have the opportunity, and I feel the responsibility to align with it and implement it in your own with your own influence.
Yes,
Um, and that is giving back to them. Um, because if a company is putting forth the effort, then they also deserve to, with good intention, of course, then they also deserve um, to benefit, and then everybody wins. Like whatever your definition of winning is, um, but to get that award to be one of the top companies in the United States, that's that's
it's a big deal.
it's a big deal. Yeah. Um, because people can learn to do things that are necessary for their job. And that's easy. We can go to school, we take the training, we have hands-on experience, whatever it is, we do a
Hmm.
practicum.
Hmm.
And yet, how simple is it? Which is maybe why it's not taught. Like, is there a Be Kind 101 class? I've never seen one. Or how can you, really care
Oh,
about
oh,
people
oh.
or,
Well, let
the
me ask you
five.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Where does kindness come from?
Mm. Wow. Big answer. Um,
Sorry.
I think, well, no, that was a zinger. Um, in my mind, it's multiple things. Um, it's it's belief. Like what do you believe is going to um, be the best case scenario for everyone involved? Um, Expressing gratitude as
Hmm.
well. Um, it's multifaceted, kindness and gratitude and like your five actions. That's it just it's almost catchy. And we have to hang in there. This is what I've learned. We have to hang in there because sometimes people may become suspicious if someone's behavior is shifting
Hmm.
to be more grateful and more trustworthy and more kind because maybe people have had experiences in their life where they've been taken advantage of or, burned by someone who
Hmm.
appeared to be nice or kind or call it what you will. And oftentimes I use the metaphor of bringing a puppy home. And if that puppy has been abused, the rescue dog might be an older dog, they're not going to warm up to you right away.
Right.
So it's a gentle persuasion, modeling the behavior. And I've also heard that we can take on the behaviors of the five people that we associate with more consistently and more regularly. And if you think about a dysfunctional work culture, even though you are maybe the most positive person amongst many, it may wear you out and you may
Mhm.
begin to adapt that behavior. So how does one even begin to develop the strength of character to be who you are in a culture that possibly doesn't align with your beliefs?
That's really wise, because I think that's the challenge that we face is
Mm,
how do we overcome these inhibiting factors that have kind of implanted themselves in the organization to the extent that we don't even see them any longer.
yeah, yeah,
This is just the way we are.
yeah.
We'll never be anything different than what we are.
Mm-hmm,
Well, if that's
mm-hmm.
your attitude, that's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Again, I can't recall who said this, but it was whether you think you're right or think you're wrong, you are.
Yeah. Yes.
That's it. It's
Yes.
just that simple. And I've been seeing a lot lately too, Ed, and this is maybe a bit of a left turn. So if you feel we haven't discussed enough on the five actions, please let me know and we'll go
I
back
think
to
we're
it.
good. I think
Uh,
we're good.
okay. And it's interesting too how the mind really does work in the way that a lot of neuroscientists say that it does. I discovered this Dunning-Kruger effect when I was doing some research for another podcast, and I found it quite fascinating. And now all of a sudden it's popping up everywhere on YouTube. And I'm like, oh, there are more people that know about this than me, right? So I'm not the only one that this is well, to me it was a real epiphany, but it's have you heard of it before,
Hmm.
Dunning-Kruger? Okay, there you go. So how
But
about
maybe
yeah?
maybe the people watching don't know what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
So
So I
why
was
why don't
gonna,
you describe it?
oh darn it, I was gonna ask you that first. Because
I
of the
don't.
work you do, it just seems, quite logical.
Well,
And again, you're
so
my
how do you?
guest. So,
Well, let's
yeah.
talk about how we identify it. So what do you see
Hmm. Hmm.
if
Uh,
you were working with a with a client or working
hmm.
with a group? How would
Hmm.
you see
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
behavior?
Yeah, good one. So I'll try and make it short and simple because, of course, I'd love to hear your perspective. First of all, two psychologists that created this theory, and I see two sides of the coin where people who know little about a topic, but they think they know more than they do. So that's just an ignorance of information. And I don't mean ignorant in a negative way. It's just the not knowingness. But they just do because maybe they've read something on Google, or so they become the experts and they talk about it and talk about it, versus some people who really do know their stuff. But because it's so difficult sometimes to see ourselves how we are,
I'm
we
losing your audio.
are you?
You,
Okay. Okay. Is it back? I hope we don't. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Um, yeah, famous last words when we all started Zooming during COVID. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the opposite side of the scale, the folks that really do know their stuff, but they don't perceive it to be of any great value because it's hard to see ourselves as others do. And we kind of hold back sometimes and think, oh, do I really know as much as I think I do? And then that brings in the imposter syndrome. So that's just a very, my own simplistic understanding of what it is. So I would love for you to add your perspective and maybe fill in any blanks that I may have missed.
I think you described it really well. I think the challenge is
Mm,
for the individual to be confident in what they know, recognizing that they don't know everything,
mm,
or recognizing they don't know everything about a specific topic,
mhm,
and that their humility leads them to say, "Well, this is what I've learned, but I think there's more for me to learn."
mhm,
You know, and it's not fake, it's not phony, it's not a put on, but it's a sincere sense of I may be an expert, but I'm not the expert that I want to be.
mm, mhm, mhm,
And I mean, I see this in just my being a leadership guy. I see things, I learn things all the time, and and I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn
mm,
because it helps my own thinking mature.
mhm,
But I think what's more important is that, and I've just written about this in a Substack post called "Answers to Questions That Weren't Asked."
mm,
And so,
mm,
in just a little sample of what that is that I realized that there's all kinds of answers to questions that we are presented that are presented to us every day. But those answers are not answering the questions that we have. And it's actually more important to be clear about the questions that we have and to go try to find the answers for the questions that we have so that we have a sense of the things within us coming together and making sense. And I really came to see this in my conversations with young adults, people under 40, who felt like, and this is my way of describing it, felt like there were all these perspectives and attitudes that they were obliged to follow or to adopt because their older people like you and me have arrived at a clear and unambiguous sense of what all the answers are to the world today. And I think a lot of us in the boomer generation do think that way. I think we think that a lot of people younger than us are failing because they haven't followed our 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 course of life.
mhm,
And I think that's where the Dunning-Kruger effect has a role to play in that Some people, like our age, think they know what they know, but do not realize that they don't. That what they now know is really insufficient for what is needed to be known in an area like leadership or like how to run a business or the challenges of education in the world or whatever it may be. And they think, well, what we've done in the past is sufficient for today, and it's clearly not. And so younger people have a difficult time dealing with that. So my advice is create your own questions, ask your own questions, go seek out the answers to your own questions, and be skeptical of everybody else. Be skeptical of me. Don't just go take my word for it. Test it, see if it works. I think that way we find a kind of mutuality in society where if a 25-year-old young man who's got his own business realizes that I've missed something that was important, that he would be free to tell me and say, if you had thought about this, I think it might. And I said, yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. Okay, I'm going to adjust the way I look at what I'm doing because of his influence upon me. And I think that's where that effect has a way of being modified or canceled out so that we actually are listening to one another and able to talk with one another without having to feel like we're having to be the expert or be influential.
Yeah. Yeah. So more equals,
Hmm.
but experts in some things, um, but also with the acceptance that even if one is an expert, there's always more to learn because of how the world is changing.
Yes, I think that I would. I'm I'm a thought leader, but I never describe myself as an expert
Yeah. Yeah.
because
It's
I don't want people to see me as an expert.
That's
I
too much
want people.
pressure,
Well, it's not it's just incorrect.
right? Okay.
I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy trying to understand
Yeah.
what's going on,
Yeah.
and my mind keeps changing.
It does. It does. And I agree with what you said about when you're looking for information and you're learning new information, it's not always exactly the way it truly is. So really be discerning,
Hmm.
particularly with social media, um, of what you're reading. And it's scary because now with technology, we have and there's multiple great reasons to use AI, but when people use it for things that are disrespectful or making it look like someone said something when they didn't, that's when we need to be very cautious. And I love to read and learn things, and yet for me, it creates more questions for me. So
Hmm.
I don't look at it as this is the solution to my problem. I look at it as what else can I learn about this?
It's expanding your awareness.
Yeah, expanding for sure. Wow.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you came up with it, Ed. You are the you're the think tank of ideas. I just so appreciate speaking with you, and it could go on for a lot
Yeah.
longer.
Well,
But so Ed, is there anything that you could share with our viewers that would support them in perhaps examining self, a different perspective, particularly for people in leadership that may be struggling because it is difficult, um, more so now than before because of the way things are done. What else would you like to share before we say goodbye to our audience today?
I think I think it's important for every leader and every person to learn how to say no.
Mm,
And when I mean what I mean by saying no is that when you say no to something that is being offered to you, you're not saying no but out of resistance. You're saying no out of an affirmation of some value that is a yes for you.
mm.
So I have a short book that you can find on my at my Amazon site called May Your No Be a Yes.
Oh, love it.
And that came about in a conversation I had with my agent, and I was taking her through my program called Impact Day. And we reached the point where she had all these competing things pressing in on her.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you have to say no. He said, well,
Hmm.
how do I say no? I said, you, uh, you identify the things that are important to you. These are the
Yeah.
things you affirm,
Hmm.
and you say, can I take this on and affirm that at the same time? And if you can't, then you say no to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So learn to say no, learn to stand on your own, learn to think for yourself,
Hmm.
learn to identify how you want to make a difference in the world, and then go practice the 5 actions of gratitude
Hmm. Hmm.
in your neighborhood and in your family.
Yeah. Yeah. And how about with self, Ed?
Oh, and self. Well, I would say this is what I have identified is that I think it's really important that we believe in ourselves.
Mm,
Because what I find, this comes back to all these answers that are kind of pushed in on us. We have to adopt all these answers and all these things. I said, what we find is that it creates doubt. Can I do all of this? Can I be that person? Can I and that seems like something I should do. It seems like something I should, but should I do that? And what we have to come back to is say, I believe that I can be a person of impact. I believe that I can make a difference in the world. And if I believe that I can do that, then what is it that I need to do to put myself in the position where that can happen?
hmm.
And I think that's where saying no to a lot of things happens. And it may be that we say no to a lot of social media. Maybe we say no to all kinds of scrolling that we do.
Hmm.
But what we're saying is, I believe that I can make a difference that matters, and I want to be known as that person. I want my legacy to be she made a difference that matters. And we're grateful for who she is and what
Hmm.
she contributed to our company or to our community, to our family, whatever it may be. But it really starts with believing that you can be. Because if you don't believe that, then it's almost impossible to overcome that hurdle of disbelief.
Hmm.
And believing in yourself is not being egotistical. It's not being
Right.
selfish.
Hmm.
It's recognizing that I have something to offer to the world
Hmm.
of value, and there's nothing better that I can do than to give it.
Hmm.
And if you can find yourself in a manner of living a daily life where you're giving of yourself in a way that makes a difference that matters,
Hmm.
then your life will be different than what you expect it to be, but it'll be filled with a deep sense of satisfaction and gratitude for the opportunities you've been given.
Hmm. Hmm. And my summary of what you've said is to tell oneself that I belong,
Yeah.
I am enough, and I am worthy. And after 20 years of coaching, I feel that those three things with everyone that I've worked with could benefit in some way. You just have to feel it and really believe it. And how do we do that? By doing some of the things you've shared with us today, Ed.
And finding people that want to share that with you.
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you need together to be collaborating on believing that we together can go do something of immense value to our community or
Hmm.
whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also want to thank you, Ed, for being the true example of that. Like you're living that truth. Watching some of your podcasts, how you interview people, how you interact. When we first got together and you said, "Oh, we don't need to talk about what we're going to talk about. We'll just be spontaneous." And I went, "Ugh." That's that's scary to me. However, I have taken on some of that from you and am implementing more with my guests because where does the truth come from more? Is it by being spontaneous and thinking on the spot and going, "Oh yeah, I think I'll contribute this," or is it from ruminating and thinking and calculating and planning? And no, it's not. And it's just so much fun. So I really want to thank you. You are truly a gentleman. Your intentions are so pure, and I can't wait to dive into your book. Listen to some more of your podcasts because I do sleep sometimes.
Unlike me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? I know we've gone on a bit here, but we talked about this just before we aired, and I'm wondering if you could also share that for your sleep pattern,
Sure.
which is fascinating, and I think it will really help some of our creative folks in the audience to just do what you do when you need to do it. So let's leave
Okay.
them with that final tip.
When I wrote this book, it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. I've been writing for a long time, but to write a book is a different thing.
Mm,
And I found that um, late morning and afternoons was not a time to write. My mind was tired, and it was more of a time where I could interact with people. So I began to go to bed at between 8 and 8:30, and I would sleep 3 or 4 hours, then wake up and work for 2 or 3 hours writing, and go back to sleep for a couple of hours, and then get up and write for 3 or 4 more hours. So between about 8 at night and 10 or 11 at the next morning, it was really a time of rest and also writing for me. And so I came to the conclusion that my day began when I went to bed, and that the quality of my day was dependent upon the quality of my sleep. And I was like a farmer. I was living a biphasic sleep existence, sleeping through two phases during the night. I'd get up and go
yeah.
feed the cattle.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And I was feeding my book. And
Yeah.
feeding. And but what would happen is that, when I would wake up at midnight or 1:30, my mind was refreshed, and all this stuff that was in my head
Mm-hmm.
easily came out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Love it. And you actually
so
typed it on your phone,
a
this,
lot of it,
a lot of
yeah,
it. That's wild.
I
Yeah.
still do that in the middle of the night.
Holy smokes, Ed. Great. Excellent. So
I,
yes.
I yeah, I don't advise you to type it on your phone in the middle of the night and lying in bed. But if that's what you must do, then that's what you must do.
Yeah. And out of that came a book.
Yes.
So there we go. Exactly. Where can we find you?
Um, my website is edbrenegar.com.
Mm-hmm.
My Substack is edbrenegar.substack.com.
Mm-hmm.
The Eddie Network podcast can be found on my channel on YouTube. Uh, and I'll send you all this information, and you can put it wherever you want to put
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the other place to find the books. You just go to Amazon.com/author/Ed Brenegar, and
Okay.
it'll find it. And just so that we're not overselling the books, I have this book, which was published by a national publisher, but
Mm-hmm.
the other books I self-published, and they were short books that I
Mm-hmm.
wrote during the first 15 months of COVID. So
Mm-hmm. Okay.
let's not over build up the hype. Let's not hype the books too much. but they are worth reading, I would say.
Yes, I'm sure they are, Ed. I'm sure we could all get some very effective information.
And this book, just so that we're clear,
Mhm.
it's published in hardback, but you can get a paperback version, you can get an
Okay.
audio version, you
Mhm.
can get a Kindle version, and you can even, if you're courageous enough, you can get a Chinese translation of the book.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent, for sure. Well, my friend, thank you so much for your time once again. That was quite the
Thank you,
long
Gail.
wrap up, but it was ever so worth it, ever so valuable. And I've been looking around at your information more and more. And I really do feel that you've got some great value there, and I know you're going to do some great things. So thank you so much.
Thank you very
Um,
much, Gail.
you bet. And I hope we'll
Great to
see
be
you
with you.
again in the future. You bet. Take care.
Bye.